This is Awakening. I'm Chandra Prasai and we welcome our viewers around the globe. The topic for the day is anger management. And to talk about anger management, I have here with me a religious scholar and motivational speaker, Shree Poudel. Santaji, let me welcome you on the show.
Thank you.
All right, anger management. For every minute we get angry, we give up our 60 seconds of peace of mind. Ralph Emerson says that. As you know, today's topic is anger management. Anger is uneasiness, displeasure, wrath, rage, whatever we call it. We will talk about it today. The definition, the cause, and how to handle it. So my first question, which is the very basics of it, which is what is anger? I will start with that.
There's a lot of talk about anger. A lot of classes are offered about anger management. Since you brought that up, let me give you a quick response to that. Anger is our response to frustrating or threatening experience. It can be associated with loneliness, fear, sadness, or things of that sort. But when it comes to mitigating the effect of anger, the term is used as anger management. We have heard similar terms such as time management, wealth management. It is an irony that we need time management because time is a resource that is limited. We talk about wealth management because it is the resource that we have. It is not infinite in source. But when it comes to anger, the less the anger, the better it is. So what is there to manage? Right. Isn't it so? But in lack of a better term, we talk about anger management. Some people talk about anger avoidance, avoiding anger. And avoiding anger is probably not again the right term either, because anger is not an entity that you are avoiding. It is some emotion that is within you. So it comes naturally, it comes spontaneously. So how do we avoid? It's not there when you drive around. It's not a pothole that you can avoid. It is not an entity. So in lack of a better term, we're probably going to talk it as anger management. But when it comes to anger, it is one of the 6 basic emotions, such as anger, disgust, fear, happiness, sadness, and surprise, according to the research by Paul Ekman. So it is one of the 6 major emotions, and although it is a natural emotion, and sometimes it can be good to have it and express it, it is considered a negative emotion because suppressing and storing up can have a lasting impact. And if it is repetitive, and if it comes to a point that it affects the quality of your life and it impacts your psychological well-being, then it is considered a bad emotion. You can be happy as long as you want. It does not affect you negatively. But anger, being a natural emotion, if it is extended for a long time, or if you do not express it in a positive way, then it can have negative impact. That's why it is suggested that we create a situation where we learn to deal with anger or not be angry. However, it is just an emotion that every one of us has within us.
So it's basically a natural emotions that comes within from us.
Yeah, I mean, we express this emotion in different circumstances.
Okay.
And a lot of people talk about, how to suppress anger or how not to express it. But people do not talk about how we master the skill to not be ever angry. And we'll talk about why we become angry probably in the later part of this discussion. But it is a natural reaction to situations.
So if I say short temper is angriness, or it's a basic form of anger,
it is one of the forms anger is expressed. Some people hold on to it.
Okay.
Some people don't show it. They call it passive aggression. So you hold on to it, you're angry, but you are not confrontational. You come to me yelling at me, but I decide to walk off but I have in mind that I'm upset with you, I'm mad at you, but I'm not confrontational. Some people will react to bullying or a criticism, and they would probably fight back right away, or they would talk back, or they would criticize, they would make some sarcasm and things of that nature. Some people would walk away, someone would back off, think properly, listen, and react in a rational way, not swing the emotional side of it. So even though you are angry, you can express it in a different way, and short temper or your temperament is one of the ways you express your anger.
All right, so if we go back to the history and talk about gods in different faith, not only one god of one faith, but different gods, different faith. There was time they were even mad, they were even angry, and they were not even immune to anger, and we're all human. How is it possible?
It is nearly impossible not to be ever angry. There are certain situations, there is a threshold in which you express that emotion. When you see a parent beating his child in front of public, or when you see a guy abusing his girlfriend or his wife, what are your natural reaction? Would you be upset? You would call the cops or do whatever you can to mitigate that situation, to make the situation better, right? So there are certain thresholds to which you give in to that emotion. So like you brought up the idea of God even being wrathful, vengeful, and then if you look into the Vedic scriptures, even Bible and Quran, there are talks about God being wrathful to certain group of people for not abiding by his guidance or whatnot. So that's why it is called a natural emotion, natural reaction to situations. However, when it comes to anger, I remember one of the sayings by Mark Twain. He says that anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel that you store, in which it is stored, than anything on which it can be poured. So when I am angry, it affects me more than who I am angry at or what situation I am angry with. So why have such an emotion or reaction to things that impact me more negatively? Because it can affect my psychological well-being. A lot of research has suggested that it can be linked to hypertension. It can be associated with many other diseases and health complications. So although it is a natural reaction, natural emotion, we don't want to suppress it or hold on to it for long, but we don't want to be too emotional and express that emotion to the party that we're mad with. So that's why it is called in skill to understand when you're getting angry, the triggers, and to be able to respond to those situations properly. Even God failed, so who are we, but we can still try and we can master that skill. And let me finish this question with one of the stats. According to one of the journals called CNS Spectrum, in 2015, 25 million Americans, nearly 8% of Americans, had intense, inappropriate, and poorly controlled anger. So there are a lot of angry people. If you drive on Texas highways and all that, road rage, a lot of people are killed every year because of that. So a lot of factors can be contributing to that, but it is the fact that a lot of people have difficulty handling their anger.
So there are many types of anger, right? Can you kind of elaborate some of them or describe some of those?
There are different classifications of it.
Okay.
But the one that I would talk about is how you respond, or when you are angry, how you react to those situations. On the basis of that, I'll classify them into 3 types. One of them is passive aggression, in which you are upset with the situation, you are upset with someone, but you are non-confrontational, you back off, but you hold grudge against that person or the situation. If you say something to me, I would not probably talk to you ever, or my demeanor when I talk to you next time would change. So you would naturally know that this person is not probably happy with me, right? That is one type of anger. The other type of anger is what we call active aggression, in which you lash out in anger, rage, and you become physically and verbally aggressive. If you say something, you criticize me, I'm gonna jump right back at you, I flip out on you, and then speak whatever comes out of my mouth, right? And it comes out in form of fighting, it comes in form of bullying, it comes in form of satire.
So there is a saying in Nepali, I lagne mathi jai lagne.
Yeah,
Something like that.
So something like that, right?
Yeah.
And there is one which is called assertive anger, the anger that is more controlled and confident, and you act out in rationality versus emotion. So you think back, a lot of times we become angry, and they might be resulting from some sort of misunderstanding. So we think through the situation, and something that we are mad at right now, for some misunderstanding or someone's criticism, we may not be as unhappy or upset with that person 2 days later or 3 months later, and if it is a year later, we won't even remember someone saying us those things. So assertive anger is something that we talk about when we talk about anger management. If that emotion comes, then we think through, we talk to that person, we listen to the issue, and we try to sort it out in such a way that there is no personal tension between the two people, or we don't hold grudge against each other. So there are many classifications. If you look into internet, there you find many, but these are the main types that I would say in most times people express anger in a way.
So the passive aggression, meaning a passive or something, you felt it and then you hold in it, right? By doing so, are you not losing your peace of mind? Because you're always thinking, let's say someone came and yelled at you or did something bad at you, the guy's gone, right? He might be happy, right? But we're holding on to ourselves with that thinking constantly in our mind, and is it like, should we avoid, can we avoid doing something like that?
That's the skill Buddha had. Lord Buddha, when someone came to him, yelling at him, Buddha just kept smiling, right? The guy kept criticizing him, he called him by names, and what happened? Buddha kept smiling. And when the guy turned back and went towards his home, the further he went, the more regretful he became. And then finally he came back and be remorseful and then get on his knees, right? So the issue with anger, right, why we become angry is that we hold on to certain things in life. We have our image. Hey, I'm a good man, I'm a nice man, I'm a proud person. So we have an image of ourselves. When someone comes and try to take that away, what happens? We become angry.
Correct.
It works in the same way with religion. We hold on to that belief, we hold on to that God, we hold on to that practice, that if someone comes and talks bad about it, then we become angry. The day we can make fun of ourselves, our image, and take lightly of those beliefs and do not hold on to them so tight, then it didn't matter to Buddha whether the guy was criticizing or appreciating him. He was simply smiling. He was not responsive, at least not emotionally, to those verbal aggression from that individual. So the result, you could see that the guy came and became his disciple. He had to submit to Lord Buddha, right? So a lot of people can't do it because they hold on to these things. If you go to a Christian and say something bad about Jesus per se, how that person would react. How would I react if somebody talks bad about my God or my belief?
Correct.
Because those things are so endearing to me, and we hold on to these things, these beliefs, right? Because we feel that there's some void inside. We want to build our identity based on what we believe in, who we associate with, who we relate with. And the bond someone tries to break, right? The image that we build for ourselves, somebody try to taint it, what do? We react in anger, because it is our response to frustrating and threatening experience. Someone is threatening our belief in our experience, and then we react in such a way. But the realization that you are much more better, you are fuller, you are infinite being, the realization that these are just the amenities of life, you as a person, you as an entity is full in itself, and you begin to enjoy life, and these things don't affect you anymore, what people say, what people think about you. Being in that state, you can avoid anger altogether.
So my following questions, I was going to talk about, you pretty much already touched on it, which is, it's easy to say, okay, we got to manage our anger, we got to do this, got to do that, this is how we will handle our anger and be a perfect man and all that sort of things. But to transform ourselves to that label, there must be some technique or some ways. First, we transform ourselves to the label where, just like Buddha, I'm not saying to be a Buddha, just like, it's hard to become a Buddha, right? But at least to a label where we can at least manage our anger easily, not just in talking, but transforming ourselves to that label. What is the way? I mean, is there any technique?
There are two types of people: the awakened souls that we call, like Buddha and those great sages and saints of the past, Mahamati Prannath we talk about in our faith, Sadhguru Deva Chandraji. People of that stature, right? They would be unaffected by any criticism, any appreciation, right? There are others who go through everyday hassles, everyday struggles, tensions in office and relationships that they are not happy with, and everyday circumstances. And these ideal methods of avoiding anger may not always work for them. So understanding why I become angry is the first thing we learn, and then how to deal with it. There are so many instructions on how to avoid the effect of anger, or how to respond to that emotion in a positive way. If we cannot be like Buddha, then there are other ways we can do it. First, do not attach yourself to a lot of things, and don't make an image. The day you can make fun of yourself in front of people, nobody can make fun of you. A lot of kids commit suicide because of bullying in this country and elsewhere. And I watched in one of the videos that one of the greatest response to bullying is make fun of yourself in front of that bully. Don't give in to that bullying. If someone says bad about you, just laugh it out and say, yeah, I know I'm bad. What can you do? This is who I am. Then the person would stop bullying you. They would continue to bully you because it affects you and they enjoy bullying you. But if there's no effect of their bullying, they won't do it anymore. So the reaction to these situations, these individuals who are frustrating to you, they are causing uneasiness to you, if you can make fun of that and simply ignore it and laugh it out, it can't be, And the other reasons why we become angry is that we have that sense of ego. Hey, I'm better, I'm good, this is what I know, and this should be the fact. And someone goes against it, it hurts our ego, and then we flip out at that person, right? These are all attached to our mind. When we take off all of them from our mind and leave it free, unaffected, because we know that there are so many people that would be speaking against us right now. There are a lot of people who don't have time to do any constructive things. They would be like, what are these guys doing, right? They may talk nicely when they're in front of you, but their reaction about you and on your back may just be otherwise simply opposite. So, let go of that ego. Don't get attached to things or people so much that you feel so connected, and any threat of taking away that bondage, makes you flip out. So if you understand those situations, then you can apply the trick. A lot of people say that, okay, when you're angry, go do some workouts, exercise, take deep breathe for 2-3 minutes, then you calm down and you respond to that situation properly. There are many things. You can do meditation, you can do some relaxation techniques, and if it goes out of hand, what do you do? Then you probably go to the counselor or psychiatrist and seek help. But the longer it is, the intense it is, it breaks off relationships. People suffer a lot when this happens.
I have seen many people, they just easily get angry, they're short-tempered. Some people are kind of subtle mind, they're like more calm. What does lifestyle plays a role in someone's behavior on anger, or is there any other factors which causes people to easily get angry?
Lifestyle. When we talk about lifestyle, our lifestyle matters a lot in shaping our personality and how our emotions are expressed. For instance, the food that we eat.
Correct.
Right? What you eat is what you become. So if you eat sattvic bhojan, the food that does not arouse emotions, strong emotions, that is what is prescribed in Vedic scriptures specifically, so they prescribe vegetarianism. Those people are more settled and equanimous versus those that are dependent on alcohol and other issues. So anger in itself does not exist in isolation. There might be different factors behind that contribute to anger. Alcohol and drug dependence can be one. Someone might be suffering from bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, some health issues. And when you brought that up, one of the greatest issues with anger is also the way our upbringing worked. If we are born into an abusive family where we have seen a lot of violence, and if you are conditioned to believe that that's violence or aggression is the only way to put our points forward and settle the disputes, then it is very likely that that is how we express when we are resentful of situations, or if we're not happy with someone or certain situations. So there are different factors that work. So wrapping up, there are certain steps you can follow to mitigate the effect of anger, or not be short-tempered and react rationally then emotionally. It's just recognize the early signs of anger. You know beforehand, hey, I'm getting angry. Your cheeks start to shiver, your ears start to turn red and all that. So recognize those early signs of anger and take a step back. Take a deep breathe, do whatever you can to let that emotion settle a little bit, and then apply the management techniques such as deep slow breathing, mindfulness, exercise. Find alternative methods to channel your anger, and use some distractions. If you like drawing, do drawing, or go out and watch television, go to gym, whatever it is that distracts you from that emotion, at least for a while, so that you can think rationally later on to settle whatever that is bothering you. So do these things, and when you're angry, to mitigate its effect. You naturally get angry at certain situation, and sometimes it works. Let's say if your kids are always playing video games and all that, and they do not pay attention to your instruction, then you can be upset with them, or you can pretend to be angry, and then it works. But the problem with anger is that the more you express this emotion, the less valuable it becomes. If you're always yelling at your kids, they won't even listen to you. Frustration are younger. So avoid confrontation as you can. Let go of your resentment, and avoid harsh, sarcastic humor when you tend to do when you're angry. And the most important thing is, I think Mahamati Prannath says, the best thing you can do with these emotions, none of the emotions are bad, if you can redirect them in a direction that is conducive to your career, conducive to your quality of life. So anger is, according to him, is not a bad emotion. Greed is not a bad emotion, but what you vent your anger on is something that determines whether you live happily or not, right? I read in one of the newspapers that a guy broke up with his girl for some reason, and then she was a little chubby. she took it by heart. She started going to the gym, and she became so pretty afterwards that the guy regretted that he broke up with her. So let's say you criticize me for something that I didn't do or someone who I am not, and then I do not take it personally, but I divert that into improvising me in such a way that then a lot of magic can happen, right? Had Thomas Alva Edison not be called adult and expelled from school, he would not be who he became.
Correct.
Yeah. We know Bill Gates, although he dropped out himself, had he not dropped out of Harvard, right, he would not probably establish Microsoft. He would probably be working in a corporate world and making probably $1 million a year, but he would not be who he is now.
Correct. Yeah.
So when someone throws tantrums and criticisms and all that, don't take it personally, but redirect it to improvise yourself. Be angry at you when you have to. When you are late waking up, be angry at yourself. Why can't I? Just vent your frustration on that, and cash in on that anger, and be a better person.
Yeah, just cast out that.
So you do not want to have that acid in you that burns you more than what and who you pour it on. Just like the saying we said. So we don't have to be angry, and it does not work. It's not worth the risk that it brings to your health and quality of life and your overall psychological well-being. Live happily, just smile, like me.
All right, with that said, thank you so much, and thank you for watching. We'll see you in our next episode. Thank you and have a blessed day.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.